December 15th. Okay, so welcome to the full moon day. Of course, we are going to have the full moon pop off in Gemini energy at 23 degrees, and we are going to reach the peak potency at 4:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, of course, there is an astro forecast for this particular event. There is a moon guide for this event. December's energy guide, of course, has a lot of shadow work prompts in that particular workbook for this event as well. And if you haven't listened to your zodiac forecast for December, you probably should. This is going to illuminate where this full moon in Gemini is taking place. And of course, that's not all we have going on here today. We have Mercury, who rules over this full moon in Gemini, going direct. Of course, Mercury's been retrograde since November 25th. And of course, 2 weeks prior to that, we entered into the pre-retrograde shadow period. Again, I'm going to encourage you to go back to November's energy guide, where you've been doing the work, capturing your thoughts, your ideas, where it is that certain situations and circumstances popped off at that particular juncture, because that's what we've been working through. That's what we've been reflecting upon. That's what we've been revisiting throughout this retrograde. And now that Mercury is going direct, we get to gain new insight, new information, new details on how to move on, how to move forward. So this is going to be a pretty interesting day. There's going to be a lot of head pressure. If you haven't listened to the Ascension forecast this week, I'm going to recommend you do that so that you understand where the energies are activating certain physical symptoms in our physical bodies in order to illuminate where it is that we have to do a little bit more work unpacking the emotional pain and trauma that is stuck in our physical form, in our cellular memory, and of course, creating the aches and pains that come with these major energy shifts. So there's definitely a lot going on. Now, of course, the full moon is a full illumination of hidden information and details, but Mercury, because he's just stationing direct hours after this full moon peaks, we're going to need a little bit of time to kind of see that information come in, to be able to understand it, to be able to articulate what's going on within us. There is going to be a little bit of an adjustment period throughout the course of this week, in order for us to, again, kind of catch up, get up to speed with what Mercury's retrograde was supposed to be teaching us. And of course, there's a lot of emotions that rise to the surface with a full moon, even though this is in Gemini energy impacting our mental plane. There's going to be a little bit of a bump in the road, so to speak, this week, as we kind of wait for all of the pieces to start aligning. And of course, we are gaining closer and closer and closer proximity to Capricorn season, which of course is the solstice energy, which of course is a reset in our karmic chapters. And so the time continuum is definitely going to be accelerating here this week. Again, please go listen to the Ascension forecast so that you understand the highs, the lows, the everything in between of what this week is going to bring. So we do have this full moon in Gemini peaking again at 4:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 23 degrees. At 9:32 a.m., the moon is going to go void of course. And at 2:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the moon is going to be shifting into a rulership in Cancer energy. So we're going from the headspace, a lot of pressure, a lot of windows open in that headspace, all the way into the heart space. We're being thrown out of the headspace and into the feels. Now, typically speaking, when the moon is in Cancer energy, its rulership, everybody kind of gets a little bit introverted, a little bit sad, a little bit melancholy, if you will, because there's a lot to process. There is a lot of want, need, and desire to keep things the same. The Cancer energy, very attached to the past. But of course, we're at a particular juncture where we can't be living in the past anymore. We have to reflect upon the past, which of course, Mercury's retrograde has been helping us to do in order to figure out where it is that we want to go from here. So we are going to be in for a couple of days here at the beginning of this week where things are hella emotional, super sensitive, where we're kind of all up in our own headspace and heart space, trying to figure out what we need, what we want, what we desire, where we have to nurture certain foundations, relationships, structures in our lives, and where it is that we have to work a little bit harder to cut the cord, to detach from some of the situations, the circumstances that old version of self had built and created that the new version of self no longer in alignment with. So we definitely have that going on here today as well. And so there are 12 different aspects popping off here today. 10 of them are going to be involving the moon. 4:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the moon in Gemini, going to sit across from, directly oppose the sun in Sagittarius. This is what gives us our full moon in Gemini on the Sagittarian axis. And of course, if you want to do the work, again, there is a shadow work to be done in that December energy guide. And if you want to manifest, bring those creator abilities online, please download that new moon in Sagittarius manifesting guide. We are at the full moon part. There are still several chapters, several phases of this moon cycle left in order for us to get heart and head aligned to figure out, again, what we want to bring to life. And so we start the day off with this full moon energy. Now, only about a half hour later, we have the moon in Gemini making a positive interaction with Uranus, the great awakener, who is retrograde in Taurus energy. And again, the whole purpose of Uranus being retrograde in Taurus is the highlight for us where it is that we're kind of having a little bit of a death grip on the old, holding on to things that we've outgrown, holding on to people, places, and things that belong to the old version of self, and trying to figure out within us why it is that we have this type of attachment. So because this is a positive interaction, Uranus is bringing a lightning bolt, a jolt, into our mental plane, our higher mind, if you will. And this is definitely going to jolt us into a new perspective, a new mood, a new attitude, and understanding what the connection is and where it is that, emotionally speaking, the moon in Gemini, ready to reframe it all, restructure it all so that we can release it, move on, and move forward. The moon is going to make an awkward interaction with Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money. She's in Aquarius energy, thinking about the future, thinking about what she has power and control over in this present moment to change, to adjust, to improve in order to secure her future vision, where routines, relationships, money matters are concerned. We're looking for happiness and joy in our everyday life, but sometimes the Aquarius energy needs us to kind of step back from our relationship dynamics, see the greater, grander picture, where it is that we need more independence and freedom, and where it is that, again, we can make some adjustments in the here and now to ensure that our future vision is going to give us the happiness, the joy, the safety, security, stability that we're craving. So this is an awkward interaction. This is going to put us in a little bit of a kerfuffle in the headspace. It is air on air action, but they're not working well together. It's kind of a clash of two different ideas, two different, let's call it possibilities, two different options. Again, the Gemini energy does kind of represent that duality, that polarization, those two parts of self that are constantly at war with one another. We get a little bit of help when the moon in Gemini is going to make a positive interaction with Pluto, the great transformer, who is also in Aquarius energy. This is going to help us to boss up. This is going to help us to feel like we have power and control over a lot of the aspects that we haven't been feeling in power or control over. This is going to put us in a new mood, a new attitude to not only reframe, restructure our inner dialogue, our inner narrative, but to see, again, the options that are presenting themselves right now and how they either align or don't align with that future vision, with that future goal. We're, again, weighing the pros and cons of all different options, all different variables. And of course, Pluto intensifies things. And so under this full moon energy, not only are our thoughts and our emotions already intensified, Pluto coming into the game is going to kind of show us where it is that certain thoughts, certain emotions have more power than others, and we should really lean into those particular thoughts, ideas, and feelings and explore what could possibly be. 9:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the moon in Gemini is going to get into the boxing ring, square off with Neptune, who of course is in his rulership in this Pisces energy. So of course, a square doesn't feel good. This is also the last aspect that the moon in Gemini is going to be making before going void, of course. And basically the confusion here, and again, squares create confusion, tension, conflict in order to highlight where it is that we're going through growing pains. The tension and the conflict are coming out of the fact that the moon in Gemini, very reliant on this present moment, on the here and now, on the evidence and proof of our materialistic realm to kind of show us what is possible. We're very reliant on the mental plane. We're very reliant on logic and practicality. And of course, Neptune in Pisces doesn't align with any of that. We are kind of leaning into our hopes, our dreams, our faith, so to speak. We are leaning more into our intuition, our imagination, on some of the things that we would like to manifest that, of course, are not present here in the physical realm. So emotionally speaking, we're going to feel a little bit overwhelmed. It's a full moon day. That's highly typical anyways. But we're going to be overwhelmed to the point where we kind of curl up into a ball, where we withdraw, if you will, in order for us to, again, kind of avoid the harshness of reality and, again, kind of support living in Delulu land. This is the particular point in time, 9:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, that the moon is going to go void, of course. When the moon is void, things get shaky, things get unstable and uncertain. And of course, under the full moon energy and Mercury about to station direct, there's going to be a lot of confusing energies. We're not going to know which one is kind of poking at us, if you will. The interesting part is, though, is that while the moon is void, of course, at 9:44 a.m., and again, Eastern Standard Time, we have the sun shining a very bright light in this Sagittarius energy, making a super harsh interaction with Uranus, the Great Awakener, who of course is retrograde in that Taurus energy. So this is going to shake us up. Uranus is a destabilizing energy and kind of throws wild card energies at us, kind of disrupts the plan, if you will, kind of puts us in a situation to have to change even though we don't want to change. It kind of interferes with the flow. Now, this particular interaction is definitely going to highlight where it is that we have a particular fear of making some of the changes that we know that we need to make. And of course, this is a particular point in time, not only under this full moon, not only with this interaction, but in this particular point in the calendar as we kind of get closer to that solstice energy, to make adjustments, to recalibrate, refine, realign not only our energy, not only our heart and head, but the direction, the path that we actually want to be walking. So we sit in that destabilizing energy for quite some time. Again, 2:22 p.m., the moon shifts into her rulership in Cancer energy, bringing up all the feels. 3:22 p.m., so an hour later, we have the moon in this Cancer energy now, making a very harsh interaction with Pluto, the great transformer, who of course is in Aquarius energy. So it's very clear to understand the tension and the conflict here. The moon in Cancer, very connected to the past. Pluto in Aquarius energy, thinking so far into the future that we have a hard time even staying grounded, even staying anchored. This is going to bring up a lot of fears, doubts, and insecurities, especially we're making changes, especially we're detaching from the old version of self, the old realm of reality that old version of self has created. It's going to create a lot of intensity, a lot of dark thoughts, a lot of dark emotions around that particular situation where we understand we're on the precipice of change. We're on the cusp of change. And the to-do list of what we have to do in order to break away is getting longer and longer and more intensified. And of course, it doesn't feel good. 3:56 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mercury is going to station direct. Please, again, visit that December energy guide. Also, go back to the November energy guide and capture where your head was at when Mercury first went retrograde. There's going to be some changes. There's going to be some restructuring. There's going to be some big, bold, beautiful, brilliant ideas coming at us over the next week or so. We have the moon in this Cancer energy making a very positive interaction with Chiron, the wounded healer, who of course is retrograde in this Aries energy, helping us with this new version of self, helping us identify the pain, the trauma, the wounds that are still alive and well within us and how to actually heal them. Because this is a positive interaction, we're not really focused on the wounds, we're focused on the change, the growth, the evolvement, the healing, the nurturing that we've been able to do, not only in our inner realm with emotions, but in our physical realm, kind of adopting new ways of going about taking care of ourselves, new ways of building ourselves up. So this is a positive interaction that kind of encourages us to open our mind space, open our heart space to what it is that we could learn to do better, learn to improve, learn to adjust in order to, again, stabilize this new identity and take better care of self. We do have the moon in Cancer getting into the boxing ring, though, squaring off with that North Node in Aries. This makes sense because, of course, the North Node in Aries energy has us thinking about the future. The moon in Cancer has us thinking about the past. Again, the square is highlighting the tension, the conflict, the growing pains that we're currently going through, trying to bring an ending and a closure to a lot of the old thoughts, old ideas, old emotions that, of course, are still bouncing around within us. This is going to put us in a situation where, again, we kind of got overwhelmed earlier on in the day thinking about the future. And again, with that to-do list of what needs to be done in order to close the chapter of the past and move on to this newest chapter of the future, we're overwhelmed. And therefore, we're becoming a little bit paralyzed in this particular energy, not knowing which way to look or which way to go. The moon in Cancer then going to make a very positive interaction with Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, of course, in this Aquarius energy. Now, yes, the Aquarius energy is thinking about the future. And where Venus is concerned, we're thinking about our future relationships, our future routines, our future financial situations. We're basically thinking about how can we bring more happiness and joy and pleasure and safety and security and stability to our everyday life. And although that Aquarius energy does have us focused on what could possibly be in the future, and of course the moon, very connected to the past, this particular energy works because the moon is all about the heart space, Venus is all about the heart space, and we're releasing the pressure of having to do all of the things to break away from the past and actually start building towards the future vision. What we're focused upon is recognizing where in the past we have overextended ourselves, where it is that we had weak ass boundaries, where it is that we've given too much of our power, our energy away to other people, leaving us in a deficit. And of course, that doesn't bring happiness, joy, safety, security, stability to anyone. And so we're learning from past situations on what we have the power and control over in the present moment to adjust, to improve, to kind of align ourselves with a high probability of bringing the happiness, joy, safety, security, stability into our future realm. We end the day off with the moon in Cancer energy, making a beautiful interaction with Mars. Mars is the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desire. He is currently retrograde, so again, his ass is sat on the bench. He's not in the game. He has to observe and assess the movements that he wants to make when given the opportunity to get back in the game. He's in Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac. We really have to get in alignment with what our heart, our soul wants us to do, wants us to pursue. Again, we're not making any kind of major moves out in the physical realm. All the moves being made are to our emotions, to our ideas, to our passions, to our desires in our inner realm. This is going to help us get focused on what we actually value, what we're prioritizing, what brings us happiness, joy, what we're actually passionate and kind of semi-excited to pursue. And again, this inner realm is about building and cultivating the fire, the spark, the flame that is going to be needed in order for us to initiate a new path, for us to adopt a new direction in life, and to sustain ourselves as we enter into this new chapter and face the very first set of obstacles.